Welcome into this episode of How to Ride a Roller Coaster. I'm David Ezell, and tonight I'm joined by Shane Mishler. He's the COO of SD Tech. They offer customized, managed IT services throughout Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin. What's going on?
Not a whole lot, David. Thank you so much for having me.
Heck yeah, man. And it's always great to have another Texan on the podcast. I love it.
It's honestly, it's great to have a host from Texas. I've been doing a little podcast tour, if you will, for the last 6 months, and I have met with people from all over the world, just everywhere, but Texas. Nobody from Texas, so this is wonderful.
Heck yeah, yeah. We're not too far away, man. And San Antonio is such a unique and such a fun and vibrant city. You know, I mean, I feel like Dallas a lot of times everything is built on a grid. It's a lot of, it doesn't matter. Like we were talking about before we started or before we hit record. My wife's family is from California. So whenever my in-laws come in, they're used to mountains and mountains being the guiding point in the distance. And my father-in-law comes here and, we're just north of Plano, which if that tells you anything, it's as flat as it gets. So he comes to visit us and he's like, I don't know where I'm going. Am I supposed to look at Dillard's? Is that north? Where am I going? So I totally get it. But yeah, man, San Antonio is so fun, has its own vibe, and it just feels like every time I'm there, it's just the city is growing. It's just, has its own aura, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah. Yep, I absolutely love our city. It's a very tight-knit community considering how large of a city it is. I feel like San Antonio is more of it feels like a good weekend with friends and family versus Dallas. To me, feels like that's a Monday 9 to 5. You're working. I live here though.
That's a great way to put it. That is exactly how that feels. Well, let's talk about SD Tech. So I want to talk a little bit more about your background and how you got into SD Tech. So your operations, you handle all the day-to-day, but how did you get to that position? What is a little bit of your background?
So how I got to that position is not a very long story, to be quite honest. I've had 4 jobs prior to SD Tech. They were all quite a bit different from one another, but I learned a lot from each. So out of high school, I started with a family-owned restaurant in Pleasanton, Texas. It's a really small town, and I started off as a dishwasher. Stuck with it for about 6 weeks and went up to the owner of the business and said, hey, Brian, I've been looking at the way you're scheduling your dishwashers, and did you know you could get the same amount of coverage by removing a person? So you save a whole bunch of money and you'll get the same coverage. And then maybe, I don't know, toss me half of what you were paying that person. We'll be good.
Wow.
I'm 18, 19 years old, and I'm having this conversation, and he looked at me and he was like, who are you? I was like, dude, I've been working here for a while. He's like, yeah, I don't bother to remember any of my employees until they've been here for 6 months.
Wow.
And it was a big slap in the face. I was new to the workforce, and it's a restaurant, so there was a really high turnover. And then me and him sit down, and I explained to him my ideas, and he was really open to them. And so we tried it out. And a few weeks later, he reduced the staff for the dishwashing team. And I moved into the kitchen after that. A few months into working in the kitchen and learning to cook, I was running our evening shift. A few months later, I found myself running our entire kitchen. 4 years later, when I left the restaurant, I worked there for just shy of 5 years. I left and I was running every aspect of that restaurant. Wow. I was running the kitchen. I was cooking full time. I was managing our wait staff. I was handling Texas Workforce Commission hearings and inventory, just literally everything. So that way the owner could really take a step back. The guy hated running the restaurant. He was a cowboy. He liked being at home and working with cattle and welding, and it was just very different for him. Yeah. And so I eventually left. While I loved the experience, the money wasn't very good. And so I moved into oil and gas, and I went and worked on a oil rig for just shy of 5 years. Similar story. I came in as a roughneck, very manual labor, and I hated my job. I didn't enjoy it whatsoever, David. There was nothing that I liked about it, no aspects whatsoever that I enjoyed, but it's what I needed to do for my family at that time. So I stuck with it. And I had the same mentality. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to try and make the best of it. And so I carefully moved up, and I took 3 promotions while I was in that industry, and left as what would have been the equivalent of like a supervisory type role. I was a step down from the person running our rig, and eventually I got laid off, and I was really grateful. The money was too good to walk away from, but for 4.5 years, my outlook on the job never changed. Yeah. Like it never wavered. I never felt better about it. So I took 13 months off. I cashed out my 401, and I spent time with my wife and my kids, and I focused on my hobbies and doing what I enjoyed. And so I had broken away, and I was big into art and music. And so during that time, I sunk a lot of my time back into both of those things. But instead of traditional arts, I got into graphic design and learning to utilize technology to support my hobbies. And I've always been a fan of technology. So I just really poured myself into that. And then when it came time to work again, I didn't want to do anything I had done before, and I wanted a fresh start. So I went and found a job in tech, but at entry level. And I started with this company that did third-party support for AT&T. They almost didn't hire me because of my background. They're like, you're a flight risk. We don't think that you're going to stick around for a $9 job. And I was like, I really want to do this. I don't want to go back to doing what I was doing. So I pleaded with them. They hired me. 9 months later, I busted my ass and I moved up, became a team lead. 3 months later, I was a supervisor. A year after that, I was the youngest operations manager the company had, overseeing about 1,250 employees. And then I left right around 5 years as a senior operations manager, and then went and worked for Kohl's department stores for their operations center in San Antonio. And I stuck around there for about 5 years. And then I met the owner of SD Tech. I was done. So I had done 10 years working in corporate offices. I was in technology. I was enjoying my life more, but I wasn't satisfied. So I talked with my wife, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about stepping away and figuring out what I want to do again. And she is super supportive. And so I had been about 90 days unemployed and was determining whether I wanted to open up my own business or find a different part of working in a corporate office, but just not doing what I had been doing. And I met Wes, the owner and CEO of SD Tech, by hap chance, and the two of us clicked on a personal level. It was like just immediate sparks. We shared a lot of the same hobbies. It was a really cool guy. We started talking about Archer and the animated show, and just talking about things we were interested in. And then we started talking about our professional endeavors, and he was like, what do you do? And so I told him, and I asked him about SD Tech, and he was like, it's an MSP. And I was like, those letters mean nothing to me. I don't know what that is. And so he explained, managed services, we provide IT solutions for small to medium-sized businesses that don't have an internal IT team. And I was like, that's cool. And so he started telling me about some of his client base, and he had been running the business for 20 years on his own, and had just organically grown this company from being a strong partner to these individuals. And I really liked listening to him talk about his business. And there was the between the spark with our personal connection and then the way he spoke about his business, it really interested me. And I was like, this sounds like it would potentially fulfill the part of me that wants to run my own business, but give me a massive jump start, and I could skip over all of the headache of starting it myself. And so he asked me if I wanted to interview with him, and I was like, what? I would have been his 5th employee at the time. I was like, what kind of position do you have available? And he's like, I don't. And I was like, well, what are you looking for?
What am I interviewing for? Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, honestly, I have no idea what you'd be interviewing for. He's like, I don't really know what you could bring to the table. I know that you have more life skills and just skills in general versus what I'm looking for. He was looking for an entry-level technician. And I told him the same. I said, honestly, I don't know what I could bring to your team. I don't know what you're doing. Like, I've never worked for a 5-man team, much less a 5-man operation. But we set up a meeting, and I went and had lunch with them, and we talked more, and we just really connected over our business views. And so I called my wife afterwards, and I was like, "Hey, this is what's going on." And she was like, "Oh, if you want to do it," like she's all about it. She's like, "Just do it." So I came on board as an employee. I didn't really have a title. We determined that about 6 months later, and we just got to know each other more. And I learned about the business, and we now have 15 employees. We've quadrupled our revenue. We have magic between us, and we extend that out to all of our other partners. So it's amazing.
Well, Shane, it sounds like, I mean, just kind of going back into some of the background that you've alluded to, starting with, the dishwashing team, it feels like you're somebody that brings a lot of structure and policy and procedure and that kind of thing to teams. Also, it feels like you're that type that when you find that team or that thing that you want to do, that's where you go. It's not, well, I'm going to go do this just because the money's great, because you could have stayed in one place even though your heart wasn't really into it. And you're talking about when you met Wes, that it's just the way he talked about himself to you and the way that you guys initially hit it off, the way that he talked about how he handles and how he treats his customers, even though they're not a 1,200 person team like you might have been used to managing in the past. It's only 5. But the way that he talked about, look, we make sure that these people are up and running every day. And, we build relationships with them. It feels like that's kind of what gravitated you to it. And then the rest just kind of kismet history.
In a nutshell, that's exactly what happened. I never think of myself as being a person that is about policy and procedure. When you get to know me more, like that's not what stands out. But you're right. In a professional setting, I do help create a structure and help bring just a little bit of control to the chaos that can exist in our everyday life. I'm the oldest of 8 kids, and my youngest brother and sister are only 12 years younger than I am. So growing up as a teenager, our home was very chaotic. My mother was a single mom. The majority of the time, she managed between 2 to 3 part-time jobs, and she really tried to, make everything happen. But there's something about growing up inside that house and working with a whole bunch of different personalities, right? As a big brother, there's a lot of skills I gained from that I didn't realize at the time that have been super beneficial.
Yeah. Crisis management. You need to be here at this time. I'm going to do that. You two work on this. I'll put out the fire. Yeah. I mean, and so just for those people that at home that may not know what MSP is, so managed service provider. So go into a little bit more in depth as to what that does, the services that you guys provide, and who that target audience might be.
So managed service provider is a really generic term. It means that we provide technology solutions and we implement them for small to medium-sized businesses. I say it's generic because that looks different for every one of my clients. One of our larger clients here in San Antonio, and I think the majority of your listeners are probably familiar with, is Keller Williams Real Estate.
Yeah.
So they have 2 of their largest offices are in San Antonio, Texas, and we take care of them. One of those offices is a 3-story building and has 1,500 real estate agents that work in it. We were there in the development of the building. So we came in during the construction phase and ran all of the data cabling, ran all of the speaker wiring, and got everything ready for once they actually put up the drywall. We then worked with their owners to determine what type of network they actually needed. How advanced did it need to be? Keller Williams is a very technology savvy company. So we worked on all of their networking side of things, assist them with making decisions for computers, cybersecurity, data backup. It's just all of it, the whole 9 yards, everything you would need in place. And then we support them with the everyday stuff. So when they have, somebody who's going to sit down and use a computer and the mouse isn't working, they reach out to us for that. When they have somebody who needs help navigating a piece of their internal software, we learn about their software and we provide them assistance. When Outlook isn't working properly, we're providing them help with that. With our smaller clients, it's the same thing, but scaled down. And we assist them in managing their technology budget in a way that's going to make sense for them. Because I'll tell you, David, the number one pitfall that I see small businesses run into when it comes to technology is overspending on the wrong stuff. And there's a lot of benefit that comes from having a consultant who's in your pocket and is helping you identify what technology is best going to support your business.
When you say overspending, is it more on the software side or on the hardware side or both?
Both. And for a small business, like just for example, if somebody who's running a taco truck is trying to get up and running and they know that they're going to need a POS system, a telephone, and a computer, right? You're going to have these things to help manage your business. They end up going to like Best Buy, and I love Best Buy. As a consumer, Best Buy is, I could blow through money at Best Buy. But when you don't know what you're looking for and you're going into Best Buy to get a computer to help run your small business like a taco truck, you're going to end up walking away with something that costs you maybe between $1,500 to $2,000, and it might be focused on the wrong pieces of hardware. And then so you end up overspending here, which makes you reluctant to spend on the other pieces of technology that you do need. And so we just help provide, we help them come up with good solutions from top down that are going to be beneficial for them and help make sure that we're assisting them in managing their money the best that we can.
Is there a certain vertical that you guys really focus on, or is it more business structure or business size?
So there's not a particular vertical that we focus on. It's not taco trucks. If there is anybody out there that owns a taco truck, I would love to support you.
I'm hungry. I don't know about you, but all this talk about taco trucks, come on, I am ready.
So Wednesday nights we actually go out for a office family dinner, and we do this every Wednesday. We go to this amazing Mexican restaurant here in San Antonio, and so right now I normally would be eating some tacos, and so
I'm keeping you from tacos. That is, you should have rescheduled this. That is not. That's bad. That's my fault.
Now I get to. Once we're done, I'm going to go grab a margarita and eat some tacos, and it's a really good night.
Fabulous.
So, we don't have a particular vertical. I have clients who range from real estate agents, the real estate brokerage. We work with veterinarians' offices, doctors' offices. I have a couple of older residential clients who are retired individuals and they wanted some help with their home office. It ranges. My sweet spot, what we're really good at doing is taking small business owners who have multiple locations, regardless of what their particular vertical is, and bringing their data, ranging from phones to cameras, their actual computer networks, but bringing multiple locations into a centralized area, making it easier for a small business owner to manage their business.
Makes sense.
But it ranges.
Are you guys single operation, or is it like a franchise type model?
So we have been a single location ourselves for the first 22 years that we were in business. But about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we actually franchised our model. And we onboarded our first franchisee back in June, I want to say. And so it's been a slow start.
Congratulations.
We're very cautious. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're being very cautious with it. But yeah, we've been running just with our San Antonio location. And earlier you mentioned that we provide service all across Texas. I actually have clients who range from California to Florida, New York, and I have 11 clients who are in Canada.
Wow. So if somebody, let's say that they wanted to become a franchise owner and, because they have the business savvy, I don't want to say it was kind of like you in the same situation, but it's like, look, this might be the thing that I want to do because I have a lot to bring. I have so much knowledge that's been accumulated, and this is really where I want to maybe kind of put my footprint or that flag in the ground. What kind of qualifications do you feel like they would need in order to just kind of jump out on their own?
So when the idea first came up, and I'm pretty positive it was over tacos and margaritas. When the idea first came up about us about franchising our organization, we were talking about the fact that the majority of our clients are franchisees themselves. And so where I was talking about how we bring together their multi-units and make it nice and easy to manage, we're like, if we're supporting clients in this way. Why couldn't we do this ourselves?
Sure.
Then we started asking ourselves the same questions you just asked me. And it was like, I love technology. I've been enjoying technology since I was a kid. I got into computers because of video gaming, but I have 20 years of professional tech experience. How do you get somebody who maybe doesn't have that and offer them an opportunity into this field? So we took our entire model and we really broke it up into two sections: sales and operations. And the sales side, nearly anybody who has a good professional background most likely is at least decent in sales. But not everybody is going to be great at the operations side of running a tech-focused business, because in order to run a tech-focused business, you have to understand technology inside and out.
Yep.
And so one of the things that we did to help young entrepreneurs break into this is we've offered the opportunity for them to give the operation side back to us. So, of course, at a cost, we will manage the tickets, the implementation, all of the support that has to be done after the fact, and allow them to focus on the networking, the selling, building out their client base, supporting their clients, really supporting their relationships, while trusting that the company who's been doing this for 20 plus years is still the company that's doing it. We don't, not that everybody ends up, I think, offloading some of their work to third parties at some point, but for going on 3 decades, we've been able to do everything in-house, and we have a great success rate doing that. So San Antonio is a fantastic tech hub, and we have Austin right next door, so it's really easy for us to pull together employees. And yeah, so it's one of the ways that we make it easier for somebody to break into this space.
What's one of the times, and maybe it was as you guys were building out maybe this franchise model, or maybe before, what was one of those times where you felt like you kind of hit a stumbling block or a hurdle, or maybe kind of one of those downs on the roller coaster where it's like, man, but I know where we want to go, but we've just kind of got this hurdle in front of us and we need to figure out how to get around it.
So we have been supporting franchises, franchisors and franchisees for 15 years. This is what my bread and butter has been since I've been working with SD Tech. And all of our conversations were making sense. We reached out to a couple of franchisor consultants to assist us in the process. We know the value of strong partnerships, and we know that we're competent enough to know where our knowledge ends, right? And so we reached out. We found this wonderful guy out of California who was there, and he was holding our hand through a lot of it, and he was helping us get ready. And you mentioned how I come across as a person who's builds things around the processes and the structure. That was our hurdle, David. That was our hurdle. As much as we thought we had things, as we started asking ourselves questions, what would a new franchisee, an SD Tech franchisee, what would they need?
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, well, they would need this. And it's like, where do we have that? And I'm like, well, Wes, you taught me that while I was sitting next to you. And then I've taught our other employees that.
But it's not documented anywhere.
It's not documented anywhere.
Yeah.
And that was the absolute biggest struggle, is even when we thought we were good at this thing, when you start asking yourself, a whole series of questions, you realize that your documentation is much poorer than you thought it was. And then a lot of our day-to-day, especially in the tech industry, it can be difficult to figure out how to document certain things because technology is ever changing. And for half of the processes we have, there's 5 or 6 different ways you can go about doing things, just depending on what the different variables are. So
interesting.
It was a pain. And to be quite honest, ChatGPT has been incredibly helpful in trying to figure out how to get a lot of that documentation together.
Yeah, ChatGPT is one of those little tools that I just kind of keep in the tool belt for certain things and use when needed. But it's funny, I had an interview a few days ago where the person that I was talking to, they were talking about having to sit down as a team and do their mission, vision, and values. And he was like, it's one thing, to go out on your website and you have what you stand for, your kind of company boilerplate out there on your website. But then when you really look at it and you're like, well, that's just kind of a word it's made up of us words in a sentence and it sounds good on a website, but is that really what we believe in times of chaos? Are we all going to point back to this and say, hey, this is who we are? And he was like, that was some of the hard work, because it's not easy. You have to ask questions. You have to be prepared to turn over that stone and look at the worms and be like, ugh, okay, yeah, we need to figure out what's going on over here, So I think that's like you mentioned, whenever you guys were building out that franchisee book, that was turning over that stone. It's like, well, man, we know all this, but it's kind of inside baseball. Me and Wes can speak our own lingo, and people in the industry can speak our own lingo. But I mean, if it's somebody that's just good at business, but they don't have this tech background, it's a completely different language. So we're going to have to really kind of put on the goggles of the person that we're talking to and really just get every single thing documented.
And I'll tell you that right there has been a struggle time and time again, is making sure, how do you remove yourself from the industry that you've been a part of? Even when we're looking at our website and saying, okay, so our primary client is somebody that doesn't understand technology or understands that they need help with technology.
Yeah.
So how do we make a website that explains to a person who doesn't understand tech what it is we do? And yeah, so we have had to reach out. We've hired consultants to assist us with this, a variety of marketing people. That way we can have outside individuals say, okay, I can see where you thought that you broke this down for somebody who had less knowledge, but man, there's still so much jargon. It's difficult.
Yeah. And funny enough, I mean, I think like tech websites, like tech company websites are the ones, because it is such a unique skill set to be able to understand the ins and outs of technology, troubleshooting, problem solving, all of those things, that the marketing and the customer facing side is just very much like, look, we know what we're doing. Just come over here, just trust us. We know what we're doing. Just come on, and you're right. It has to be pain point after solution, after 5-star review, after pain point, and those types of things build trust in SD Tech. It shows people, oh, well, yeah, I really don't know what happens. Like if we have a power outage, where are all of my files? Who's manning the phones if we're not, if we're on something else. So, I mean, there's all these different things that are pain points that would then drive people in. But you're right. It's so hard to sometimes kind of come out of our own lens and look at it from the lens of who we're trying to get in.
Right. It's very true.
So what's kind of next for SD Tech? You guys, you said you just brought on your first franchisee not long ago, building out that framework. I mean, what's next? So say 3 to 5 years from now, where do you see SD Tech going?
So 3 to 5 years from now, I'm hoping to have a nice, not too big. I would like to have probably 5 to 10 franchisees providing boots on the ground, visibility, tangible network across the U.S. I want us to have a good footprint here in Texas. Our clients know who we are, but of course, having somebody local in Dallas, Houston, and Austin would be ideal. I want to expand out. Denver is a really important demographic for us. We have a great clientele who's already out there. It would be nice to have a person who our clientele could have dinner with occasionally, and another good representative. And then California and New York are really important to us. I would say if things are going very successfully, I would like for us to be able to break into Las Vegas. Las Vegas is an entirely different market. The technology supporting that type of market would be really cool, even if we were doing it for some of the smaller businesses in that area. But I would like a reason to go to Vegas more often.
Who wouldn't? Are you kidding? And so I guess, let's see, last one. If there's somebody out there that's listening that is also in some of the operation side of things, but like you said, there's so much to uncover. There's so much of that hard work to be done at certain impasses. What would you say to that person? Like if you could kind of give yourself that information before you kind of got to where you are now or to this point, what would you tell that person?
What I would tell that person is don't hesitate to lean on your current partners. Don't hesitate to look for new ones. And so as an individual, as a COO of a small business, partnership can be something that really makes some small business owners feel a little bit hesitant. A lot of small business owners don't want to say that they have a partner. And I'm not telling you to find a partnership to go 50-50 with somebody on your business. What I'm recommending is that you find somebody who has a vested interest in either your business or in the type of business that you're supporting, and build out a peer group. Lean on individuals. Our most powerful allies are our allies, and finding people who have similar struggles, who have a similar vision, to just really lean on them. It's the same way that I look at our partnerships with our clients. I want for our client to, you were mentioning earlier, to be able to trust us, and typically that's done in time. But I get to know my clients very, very well, so that way I understand the work they do, so that way I can find the right technology to support them. And outside of that, that's the same way that I manage my personal relationships, my professional relationships, and don't hesitate to leverage those. I'm not recommending that you go out and use people, but don't hesitate to leverage your relationships, because oftentimes asking for a little bit of help is going to just really end up building a good partnership with somebody, and there's a lot to be gained from it.
I think you're spot on. So Shane, before you get out of here, I want to make sure that people follow you, keep up with SD Tech, everything. So where can people find you? Where can people reach out and learn more?
So you can learn more about SD Tech at sd-tech.net. You'll find our website and our services and links to the franchise side of things, if that's what's interesting to you. If getting to know us on a more personal level is interesting to you, you can reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn, Instagram. Shane Mishler. I don't have anything special. You'll find me where you're looking for me. Reach out, send an email, whatever works. I'm always happy to meet new individuals and provide whatever help. All of our consultation is free, with no time commitments, none of that. So if you have questions, if you're in this industry already and you're looking to see what more you can glean from me, I'm very happy to sit down and have a conversation or chat on Zoom or Riverside or whatever it may be.
Heck yeah. Well, Shane, thank you so much. Go enjoy some tacos. Again, my apologies for keeping you away from tacos and margaritas, which is way more important than sitting on a camera like this. So go enjoy, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, David.
Thanks for watching. Before you go, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button to be notified when the next episode comes out. Until next time.